Well, good morning. Welcome back to the shop. We've got a project we're going to start on today. We're going to build a workbench, and I'll show you where it's going to fit in just a moment. I've got some of the materials ready to go. So we're basically building this out of 2x stock, and I've kind of got, the plans are mostly here in my head. I've got a few things down on paper, and I'll show you where we're going to put this. When I said I had a few things down on paper, I really meant it. That's basically the plans right there, along with some of the material list. Suffice to say, I've kind of got in my head what I'm going to do here. That's about all the blueprints I really need. So this bench is going to go replace all this business right here. Down there, that's my motor for my planer. That's a project that's still underway. But all of this business, we're going to make it 8 feet long, or the top is going to be 8 feet long. It's going to go clear down past where that chop saw is. That's going to be 8 feet. We're going to make it 31 inches deep, so this way it's going to have 3 bays of drawers. And I'm going to make the drawers such that I can put all of my fasteners that are all down here in these various bins. All of my fasteners will be able to go in those drawers and clean all that crap out. This is all of our raw materials here, or not all of them, but a good portion of them to get started. I've got a bunch of 2x8s here, and what I'm going to do with those is I'm going to rip them down, and I'm going to cut the edge off, just a little bit of right there to square it up, because all of these, the milled is a little bit rounded on the edges, and you know, they're nicked a little bit. So I'm going to square those up, and then I'm going to cut 1x3s, or probably 1x3 1/4, or almost 3 1/2, and use that dimension for all of my supports and cross members, except for the uprights. The uprights are going to be 2x6s. So we're going to go ahead and cut a whole bunch of, like I say, 3 1/4 or so. So let's get started with that. We've got our rip blade and the table saw. We've got it set for about 7 inches. Then that's going to nick off just one edge of that 2x8, and then we'll reset it and run them through again, and we'll have a whole stack of 1.5 inches by probably 3 1/4 inch pieces to begin putting this all together. The other reason I like to do it this way with 2x8s and cut them down to 2x4s, if you will, is typically get straighter stuff when you're using 2x8s versus 2x4s. Sometimes the 2x4s can be a little more crooked and what have you. When you're trying to use it for something like this, it's just easier to, and I think a little more stable to make them out of these bigger pieces. A little more work, but seems to work good for me. Now we've got 5 of these ripped up. Now we'll adjust our table, or our fence. So we'll do 3 3/8. Okay, we've got all those cut up. Got a pretty good supply of what are now 2x4s. Start making cut to length. Okay, this is just kind of the layout of the bottom frame. And these uprights, I'm cutting a notch in there so they'll fit there like that. And we did that over here on the table saw. I just set up a block with the proper depth and ran them through, and now I'm just cleaning them up with a chisel. All right, I think we've got all the pieces cut. I've kind of dry fit everything to make sure I've got this right, and I think I'm pretty good to go. So let me kind of give you a lay of the land here in terms of how this is going to go together. Over here, we've got these uprights here that are notched down here that they're going to sit over the edge of this box here. And then there's going to be an infill with another piece of 2x here that's going to be flush there. And then over here on the outside, both front and back, these pieces of 2x6 will come up, and then there'll be this 2x here that'll go clear to the other end. The other end will look exactly the same. And then I made a piece in here, so that'll fit down over that notch, into that notch rather, and then there'll be another piece that'll fit in here like that. All here is the back. This will be the back. And then the front is up here. This is looking at it from the front. And this piece right here is going to fit down inside. I've already glued this part up, these stretcher bars here. And that's going to fit down inside this. Now, I've made this so that I'm going to put a piece of 3/4 plywood up here that'll mate up to one on the top exactly in the same spot. And that's where I'll fasten my drawer slides, both here, here. It's kind of divided into thirds. You can see 1/3, 2/3, and the third piece, third bay right there. So those are all, they're pretty well evenly spaced. I had to make the middle drawer will be just a shade smaller, narrower than the two outboard bays, but I don't think you'll notice it. We're just going to start the assembly, putting things together. Okay, clean up a little bit of glue here, and we'll go on to the next step. All right, we've kind of got the basic shape put together there. Came together pretty nicely, and it helped to dry fit everything, to kind of just make sure what was in my head came out right on in practice. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take a piece of 1/4 inch plywood, maybe 3/8, and put a solid back on it to give it the lateral strength this way. That'll help with that a lot. I think, as I said earlier, I'm going to go ahead and put some 3/4 inch plywood. Will come all the way from the bottom up to here, and on each of these, and that's where my drawer slides will connect to. Also, over here is, you'll see a rabbet right here, and in all the corners. So in there, I'm going to put a piece of 1/2 inch plywood that'll take the drawer slides for the ends. And then there will be some space in here, as you can see. So I think what I'll do there is I'll put some pegboard in there and use that to hang some things on the ends that I don't use very often. So I think the next order of business is to get the top ready to go. All right, we're getting ready to glue up the tabletop. Okay, there we go. Got these pretty even. I had to, you saw during the video, I put some 2x underneath here to kind of help persuade them down into spot. These were a little bit wavy, but I think I've got it pretty good right now. There's a couple spots that are maybe not as good as they should, but since this is going to be covered up with a piece of sheet goods, I think we'll be fine. So we'll let this glue cure up. Now I'm going to cut those uprights that are going to separate the bays, to which I'll attach the drawer slides when I get to that stage. So there's 2 of these, 23 3/4. I cut these on the table saw. Just made a little jig, put a little stop on the table saw so I can cut them all the way around. I'm going to finish them with this saw. And let's see if this one will fit in there. Let's just check and make sure how square we are here. So we're 94 and a half that way. And 94, and I'll say 7/16 that way. So that, as far as I'm concerned, for this purpose, is square. So let's go ahead and put the back on. I've got two different kinds of casters. I happen to have these left over from a previous project, and I found these at Lowe's, and they're the same height, so I'll put two on the front and two on the back, and we'll call it good. Let's tip it back up and get it. There we go. Okay, these are the end pieces that go in here, and get that a little bit, slide a little bit, shade bigger. So these end pieces will attach the drawer slides for this bay and then the far bay, and the middle one will of course sit in between these two here. Okay, those are in there. We'll go ahead and put some screws in, and then the next step is going to be making some drawers. Well, we've got everything cleared out of here. All this crap that was here before that this is going to replace is all gone. This is where this workbench is going to sit. The measurements here, these are 22¼ clearance in here. So I'm going to have 3 drawers in each bay. Each drawer is going to be 7 inches deep. That'll leave me 1/4 to 3/8 between each drawer for clearance and what have you. We're going to use 22-inch drawer slides. So the drawer sides are going to be 22 inches long, and then the cross pieces are going to be, let's see, 26 is the clearance here. So I've got to make it leave an inch for the drawer slides, and then an inch for each of the drawer sides, because that's the way we're going to make them. So we're going to have to cut those 24. So I know that this middle one is a shade different. It's 26 5/8, so we'll have to adjust for that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and cut the drawer parts. A neighbor across the street was getting rid of the desk that he had made out of, well, it was actually just a desk top that he'd made out of some oak plywood, which is quite nice, and thank goodness he didn't put too much construction adhesive on it when he put it together, so I was able to take it apart a little bit, and I think that's going to allow me to have enough material to finish all the drawers, as well as the drawer fronts, which we'll put on at the end. Okay, we've got our 18 sides here, all 22 inches long by 7. Now we've got to find some material to cut the fronts and the backs. So now we're going to cut all the drawer faces. That is, the pieces that will be seen, and it'll be that, and we're going to paint them anyway, so I think we'll be okay. I was able to put together and find enough scraps to make all this work. So to recap here, These are all the sides. There's 18 of those, 2 for each drawer. This stack over here is the backs of the drawer boxes. This will be the front of the drawer boxes. And these will be, now, these pieces that had that construction adhesive on it and some of the wood that it pulled out of veneers, get it all rough. When I salvage that, these are the back sides that I won't see anyway. So I'm going to go ahead, instead of farting around with this with a planer or sander, I'm just going to run them through the planer. I'm going to take about a 30-second, probably that top layer of veneer off, and that'll clean them up. So we'll finish that up. I think we're good. Got this one to do, and then we'll start doing a little cleanup, and then we'll start cutting the length and assembling our boxes. Put a little block here that I measured. Use the stop. I'll take these are the backs, and I'll cut those to the proper width, and we'll go through. I've got 3 backs and 3 fronts, so we'll go ahead and get those cut up. Okay, got those all ready to go. In order to utilize all the material, they're going to be a little bit different, but you'll never notice it because it's going to be clear in the back of the drawer. So I think we'll be fine. I just finished cutting the drawer bottom, and this is out of 1/4-inch maple plywood. So what we're going to do now, I've got a dado set in the table saw, and I've got it set back a 1/2 inch, so it's going to leave the dado a 1/2 inch from the bottom of the drawer, and then the bottom will sit in there, and it'll have that dado all the way around, and then the back will not have the dado in it, and I'll show you that when we start putting these together. So let's go ahead and cut these up. Okay, we're just going to assemble a drawer here, show you the method that I use, and there's one of the sides, put that in with the nice side to the inside of the drawer, and then the front is right here, and I'll put a bead of glue right there. Normally I'd make these all with 1/2 inch on the sides and the front and back, but I ran out of 1/2 inch, so I'm making do with what I can find in the scrap pile. I don't put glue in the dado for the bottom. Probably could, but I never have, so and it's worked fine. So just leave it like that. And then now the back doesn't have a dado in it, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure why I started doing that years ago, but it just seemed like it was easier. You could probably put a dado on the back, but they go together a lot easier this way. Now, before I staple this across the bottom, I'm just going to check for square. There we go. There. Now I just got to do that 8 more times.